Okay, let's see what you learned about verb conjugation. That is to say, the modification of the action, the form of the action as different subjects are used. First of all, what did you learn? What was the gesture I made with my hands when the person doing the action is yourself? That is to say, you say je. What is it that you do? Let's take the verb écouter. What do we do to écouter when the subject is je? Okay, you saw me go like this in the video. You saw écoute, it become écoute, j'écoute. When the subject is tu, what do we do? What is the gesture I do with my hands to show how the entire verb écouter, how that entire verb is modified? It's the same thing. Écoute, that's right, tu écoutes. Same with il, same with elle. It was I chopped off the ending of the verb and said simply écoute. So with that same action in mind, how would I handle laver? It would become lave. Very good. How would I handle habiter? Habite. That's right. How about dire? It's essentially two syllables there. Dire, you could say. So, that's right. Di. How about, excuse me, that was dire. Faire. What am I going to chop off in faire? Right, the re sound at the end. It's going to be fait. So when I want to talk about making the bed, for example, I'll say je. Do I say je faire, the whole verb, faire? No, it's je fais. And what was the word for the bed? You probably learned it in the last video. That's right. Le lit. Je fais le lit. How would I say that she makes the bed? All right, I'd say elle. Take the whole verb, faire, chop it, fait. Le lit. Elle fait le lit. How about you? I'm speaking to you, or actually you're talking to a person familiarly. How would you tell that person familiarly that you make the bed? What would you say? All right, okay, good. I hope so. You said tu, not faire, but fais le lit. Okay, there was one subject, however. Je, tu, il, elle, vous. Which I said was distinct. It was different, handled in a different manner. The modification to the verb is done differently with this one subject. Which subject was it? Okay, it was vous. And do you remember the gesture I perform and the sound that one makes for the ending of the verb when vous, when you're speaking to a person respectfully and you're saying that you do such and such an action? What was the gesture I made for the sound at the end, the sound itself, for the ending of the verb? Do you remember? Yeah, it's this right here. It's the sound e. So, vous habitez, vous écoutez, vous lavez. Good, you put the sound e at the end of the verb when vous is the one perform the action, when you're saying you to a person respectfully. Now, I left intentionally two verbs out of that list right there because two of the forms are what I call, in fact in the video I think I did this, I don't see my reading glasses, so I'll take these. This will be even more bizarre. I did this with my glasses, which is kind of a bizarre thing to do. And I suggested that this is a bizarre form that you have to learn. It's called an irregular verb. When the verb used is this one right here, the idea of making something or straightening the bed or making the bed, whatever it happens to be. When we use the verb faire and the person doing it, you're saying is you respectfully. You don't say vous ferez. It's not the e ending. What was it? Do you remember? It was an irregular, strange one that you would have heard both in the video and also as you clicked on the images within the lesson. Do you remember what it was? It's vous faites. Vous faites. And there's another strange, bizarre form like me. And that would be the verb. Which verb has a strange form when the subject is vous? Right, it's dire. You don't say vous direz like you wish you did, which would be a regular, normal thing to do. It has an irregular form. It's vous dites. Dites is that irregular form you're saying to a person respectfully that you do this action of saying. Vous dites. Dites-moi. Voilà. Well, in any case, let's see if we can expand on this a little bit. Let's take one verb, one normal verb like laver. And so if I want to say that I do this action, how would I say that? Go ahead and try. Right, it would be je lave. How about if I'm speaking to somebody in a familiar fashion, someone my age, someone I know well, someone I'm not showing particular deference or respect toward? How would I say that you do this action? Yeah, it's tu laves. Talking about this guy right here. How would I say that he does it? Right, il lave. Same thing for a girl, it would be elle lave, right? Okay, and last of all, if I'm speaking to someone with great respect because they're in authority over me, for example, I would say, what is it? Right, vous lavez, vous lavez. Now let's expand even more on this. Let's try an entire sentence. Let's see, what can you can already talk about listening to classical music, for example. I think you probably heard that a few times. And so how would you say, speaking to a peer, someone your age familiarly, how would you say, you listen to classical music? How would you make that statement? It would look like this with your hands. What is it? Okay. Tu écoutes de la musique classique. Okay. Tu écoutes de la musique classique. How would you say, oh, let's say that she listens to classical music. Need some help with my hands? Okay. It's like that. Right. Elle écoute, not écouter, but écoute de la musique classique. How about speaking to someone respectfully? Say, you, sir, you listen to classical music. How would you say that? Vous écoutez de la musique classique. Last of all, this brings us to an important point. How would you say that you listen to classical music? In other words, how do you say, I listen to classical music? No. Did you say that correctly? Did you say je écoute de la musique classique? Well, if you did, you're wrong, because it's not je écoute. If you listen enough times to the patterns within lesson 1.4, where you have to click on the je and the tu and the il and the elle and the vous, or if you watch the video at the beginning, you would have seen me do this, which is to remind you that when you have a word which ends in a vowel sound, je, see my mouth is open, and followed by another word which begins with a vowel sound, écoute, écoutez, my mouth is open, that's a vowel sound, you could say. And that first word is a short word. This is something you don't know, I'm informing you of this. It's a short word, typically a two-letter word, like me, ce, je, ne, que, which is three letters, but you only hear two, etc. Okay, all of those are words you don't know yet, except for je. So a short word ending in the sound okay, followed by a word that begins with a vowel sound. I don't say je écoute. As over the centuries that was said faster and faster and faster and faster, it became j'écoute. It became a contraction. Just like in English, when you say do not, you can say as well, just as easily and faster, don't. In the same way in French, you say j'écoute, or habiter. Habiter, let's try another one. How would I say I reside in the city of Detroit? You would say je, and then we have the verb habiter. We're going to chop it. Habite. So je habite. J'habite. Why did I make that contraction? Because je is a short word ending in the sound which is a vowel sound. And the next word, habiter, begins with a vowel sound. Notice how my mouth is open, and so je habite, it can be said, je habite, can be said much more concisely by saying j'habite as a contraction. Now in English, contractions are a matter of choice. You can say do not or don't. In French, there's no choice. When you have a short word ending in the sound followed by a verb. The short word, by the way, is usually, well, it could be any variety of kinds of words. But the second word begins with a vowel sound. You don't have a choice. You must form a contraction. J'habite. You may never say je habite. Hein? J'habite. J'habite à Détroit. J'habite à Détroit. Voilà. Okay, now, this is just a little bit of a review of what you would have seen in 1.4, but the key for this particular lesson on this particular day is preparing you for the test. And in essence, we're already doing it right now. The things we're talking about are the knowledges and skills that will be tested. So let's go into lesson 1.4, and we'll pick it up there. Okay, so here we are in lesson 1.4. And as you see at the top of this page, you have these 4 buttons, 3 of which mean nothing to you, but one, the stop sign, takes you, if you click on it, takes you directly to the test, skipping all the intermediate steps, all the sections that precede the test. Okay, this is how a test works. You click on the stopwatch. Actually, the teacher probably will click on the stopwatch, but to practice, you might want to do it yourself. You will click on run, and then you choose always on top. Put the stopwatch up out of the way, and you see there are 4 different forms to this test. If I click on the 4, it will take me to form number 4. If I back up a little bit and click on the 2, I go back to the second form of this test. All the forms are essentially the same, just the examples are slightly changed so that no memorization of the test can take place. Well, let me go back to section 1, or test number 1. Here we are. And let me talk you through this particular test. Then number 2, we will time, and I'll probably make a few comments. Then 3 and 4 will simply time without me making any comments really at all. Okay, so I'm not going to time this one. In the first, I think there are 12, are there not? Yes, 12 sentences, and we have 1 minute in which to say these 12 sentences. The teacher will say go, and he or she will click on the start button, and then you'll start going through all these 12 sentences and saying as many and as accurately as you can. So in any case, this we know is je. Here's the verb habiter, but we already know that was je as the one doing the action. We're going to chop it, so it's habite. But we don't say je habite, we know we say j'habite. Hein? So j'habite à, that's the idea of at or to, j'habite à Détroit. The next sentence is almost identical. Now I'm just going to change the je to elle, talking about a girl. So elle habite à Détroit. And here we're talking about a boy instead, but this time we're changing it to changing the verb and also the noun at the end. So il, and this is the verb faire, but you know when someone is doing the action, I won't use the whole verb faire, I'll chop it, fait. So il fait, and then le lit, the noun at the end. Okay, il fait le lit. Now we're saying the same thing essentially, but we're just going to change it from il to je. Everything else is going to stay the same. I'll chop the verb like I did for il. So je fais le lit. Number 5, same thing. I'm just going to replace je with elle. The verb will once again be shortened because someone is performing the action of faire. So elle fait le lit. Next one down, number 6. We're halfway there. We're talking about écouter now, but we're saying that I'm saying that I do this action right here. So I will not say écouter, the whole verb. I'll chop it off. So it will be je écoute de la musique. De la musique is this concept here at the end. Now, you notice that I said je écoute. Is that correct? Je is one of the short words, ends in the sound e, a vowel sound. My mouth is open, and the verb, the action, starts with e. My mouth is open. That makes a vowel sound. Je écoute. It should become j'écoute. That's right. J'écoute de la musique. J'écoute de la musique. Next, and now you got to be careful here. This is the one subject whose form, whose conjugation is distinct from the others. So vous, I will not say écoute, will I? I'll say écoutez. So vous écoutez de la musique. Next one down. Now this is a challenging one, and if you don't say it correctly, it's up to your teacher to decide just how stringent he or she wants to be about this one. This is called a reflexive verb, unfortunately, in this situation. You don't need to know what that means. It simply means that you're going to say vous twice. I'm not going to explain to you at this point why. That's really for Unit 2. But if you say vous lavez les mains, personally, I think you should be applauded. But the truth is, it's vous lavez les mains. And if you can say that, you should change seats with the teacher and let them sit down and take the test themselves. Okay, next one. This once again has an odd aspect to it. Truly, the answer is je me lave les mains. But if you say je lave les mains, personally, I think you should get full credit for it. But it's up to your teacher to decide. You could listen and listen and listen without necessarily understanding why. You could remember this form when you're dealing with one's hands. You could remember that it's je me, or it's in this next case, it's elle se lave les mains. But if you simply said elle lave les mains, bravo, I think you're already doing pretty well. Elle se lave les mains is the correct form. Next, now simplifies a little bit here. Here's dire again. Je, I'm going to chop it. Dis bonjour. Je dis bonjour. And then the next one down here. Vous, this is the bizarre one. It's not vous direz like you wish it would be. It's vous dites. Vous dites bonjour. Vous dites bonjour. Stop. That would be the end of the test. If you could have said all 12 of those within 1 minute, as accurately as possible, you'd be doing great. We're moving down to test number 2 now. Once again, I'm going to talk you through this one, but a little more rapidly this time. So here we have habiter, so il habite, I shorten it. I won't use my hands, we'll just go quickly through this. Il habite à Détroit. Next, tu habites à Détroit. Once again, I just shortened the verb with tu as a subject, but the next one, number 3, I've got to remember that with vous, I'm going to add the sound et at the end of the verb. I won't chop off the, I won't shorten the verb's sound. So I'll say vous habitez à Détroit. By the way, you're hearing me say little z's in there. Vous habitez à Détroit. As I'm saying that, don't worry about the z's. If you say vous habitez à Détroit, you're doing great. That's good enough. What I'm pronouncing there and saying the vous habitez à Détroit is called a liaison. And until you see the word in written form, you probably will have difficulty anticipating when you should add that little z or other similar sounds between words, linking words. I'll just tell you at this point that sound in there is to cause the words to flow together more smoothly. So don't try and figure them out. If you can hear certain statements frequently enough, you might start making these liaisons, these connections between words. But don't worry if you're not at this point. Okay. Next, we again have vous, but this time we have this verb, which was going to have the bizarre form. And so it's not vous ferez, it's vous faites le lit. Next one, this simplifies here. Again, we have faire le lit, to make the bed. And it's tu, chop it off, tu fais le lit. Number 6, here's écouter. We're changing verbs now, changing the object or the noun as well. Il écoute de la musique. Next one, tu écoutes de la musique. Next one down. Elle écoute de la musique. Very little change. Once again, we run into these unfortunate uses of parts of the body. So it's really il se lave les mains. But if you just say il lave les mains, bravo, I think that should be good enough, frankly. Tu laves les mains, which is not correct, but it's pretty close. It's tu te laves les mains. Must I explain this to you at this point? All right, if you insist. But I'm going to make this brief. And this won't be satisfying either. When you do an action to yourself, you add an extra little word called a pronoun, a reflexive pronoun, before the verb to show that you're doing the action to yourself. If I washed a car, I'd say je lave. If I washed a window, I'd say je lave. If I washed the dishes, I'd say je lave la vaisselle. Hein? But if I wash myself, for example, my face, I would say je me lave le visage. Okay? And so this extra little me or te or ce or vous is there to show that you're doing the action to yourself. But don't worry about it at this point. If you're not using it, that's fine. If you simply say tu laves les mains, that should be good enough. Next, il dit bonjour, il dit bonjour, and elle dit bonjour. Okay, time for a timing. Here we go. I will go through number 3 as though I were you, and I will speak probably at a rate closer to what you actually will use. So here we go. Number 3. And go. Il habitait. No, it's not habiter. Chop. Il habite à Détroit. Elle habite à Détroit. That's your accent too, by the way. Vous habitez à Détroit. No, vous is the A at the end. Vous habitez à Détroit. Je fais le lit. Tu fais le lit. Je écoute de la musique. You don't really pronounce like that, do you? Tu écoutes de la musique. Vous lavez les mains. It's really vous lavez les mains. Let's forget about it though. Elle lave les mains. Il dire. No, chop it. Il dit bonjour. Vous dites, bizarre one, bonjour. And, oh, time's up. I got to 11 out of 12. It's not bad, isn't it? I mean, it isn't bad. Is it? Okay, well. In any case, that's probably closer to what you're going to, the performance you'll be able to come up with. And 11 out of 12 would mean that you lose all the points for this last sentence right there. So we really want to practice this sufficiently so that you can get through all 12 statements in the 60 seconds you're allotted. And therefore, that's why we're practicing today, so that you'll be up to speed for the next class. Okay. Well, this last one, I'm going to do it, if not at top speed, nonetheless, as though I were who I am. Here we go. Tu habites à Détroit. Elle habite à Détroit. Vous faites le lit. Je fais le lit. Il écoute de la musique. J'écoute de la musique. Elle écoute de la musique. Vous vous lavez les mains. Tu te laves les mains. Elle se lave les mains. Tu dis bonjour. Elle dit bonjour. Stop! I had 39 seconds left. Surely you can approximate that result. Well, in any case, you'll be able to if you practice with enthusiasm today. So work at it, work at it, work at it, and then in the course, at the beginning of tomorrow's class, I'll explain to you how you make contact with me if you need to be tested remotely, or another instructor remotely. Or you may have a classroom teacher who will meet with you. But in any case, the test will be taken one-on-one. And I'll explain the more details regarding that in the next video. Okay, bon courage. Bonnes études, appliquez-vous. Study with enthusiasm. See you soon.